If you want the smallest action camera, then up until now, Insta360 have dominated that part of the market with their Go series. The question is, does the new tiny GoPro Hero 4K offer a better alternative? There's a lot of stuff in here about this camera that you may not know and you'll find surprising. I'm going to be comparing which camera is best, looking at design, mounting options, battery life, stabilization and lots more along the way, so you can decide which camera is best for you. Insta360 went down the road of making their Go cameras bigger every time they updated them, with the end result being the Go 3S, which is a GoPro sized camera with a flip out LCD screen where you can use the camera in or out of the action pod. The Hero is substantially smaller than the Go 3S when the Go 3S is in the action pod, and it's much lighter but with an LCD screen that is only slightly smaller. If we look at the design and mounting capability of the Go 3S straight out of the box in the action pod, you can't actually attach it to anything because there are no mounting options. There's no finger mounts, no threads, nothing. It does come with several attachments, a pivot mount, cap mount and a pendant mount, but on its own you just can't attach it to anything. The Hero, on the other hand, straight out of the box has these built-in finger mounts underneath which neatly fold away. So you can attach this to any mount with a GoPro finger design. Surprisingly though, this camera doesn't have the integrated 1/4 inch thread underneath which we do see on their larger action cameras. And even more surprisingly, the new quick release magnet mount, which released at the same time as the GoPro 13, is not compatible with the Hero camera. But at least we have got these finger mounts. Of course, with the Go 3S you can take the camera out of the action pod and use it independently, and it's the size of the camera when we use it like this which has always been the major selling point of this design. So straight out of the box this is magnetic, so you can at least mount it to magnetic surfaces without the need for any other mounts. But using the magnet on the back is very limiting, and there's no other way of attaching this to any other mounts. There's no screw threads and no finger mounts. One other really cool thing when you use the camera out of the pod like this is that you can then use the action pod as a viewing screen and a remote control for the camera. And this is done via Bluetooth and works up to about 5 meters away. So if we compare the sizes of these two cameras, the Go 3S is half the size and half the weight of the Hero. But obviously now with the Go 3S, because it's out of the action pod, we now don't have the LCD screen. And both cameras also have removable lens guards. If you want to mount the camera by itself or in the action pod, then it does come with this quick release mount in the box. And this is on a swivel head with a 1/4 inch thread. Or you can buy this action mount, which is also quick release and it has fold out fingers as well as a 1/4 inch thread underneath. And with the action mount attached underneath, this is now a similar design to the Hero camera, so we've got the fold out fingers and the 1/4 inch thread. But now with the finger mount attached, the Go 3S is even bigger. This quick release mount is actually a really good design. It attaches to the action pod, quick releases, and it also attaches independently to the camera as well. My preferred way of using the Go 3S though is out of the action pod using these cradle mounts, which are optional extras, but I really like them because they keep the camera so much more compact. GoPro have taken a really interesting approach to this camera and they've kept it simple. There are only 3 shooting modes to choose from. You have slow-mo video at 2.7K 60 frames per second. You have normal video, which by default is set to 4K 30 frames per second, and then you have photo mode, which is 12 megapixels. So from a beginner perspective in particular, this camera is dead simple to use. Even the menu is stripped right back and there's hardly anything in there. You can turn on quick capture and choose your default mode, which is a nice feature to have, as well as voice activation. And there's also a battery saving mode, and then this switches the video recording to 1080 instead of 4K to save battery. And you can choose your region as well, so PAL or NTSC, which can then change your frame rate from 30 frames per second to 25 frames per second. On the other hand, if we look at the Go 3S, there are a ton of features, a ton of shooting modes, and loads of customization that you can do. If you include pre-recording mode, time capture, and webcam mode, there are 13 different shooting modes to choose from. And slow motion is at 2.7K 100 frames per second, so double that of the Heroes. This is great, but you could argue that this is unnecessary and overwhelming. And it would be really nice if Insta360 could include a basic menu mode option as well that's stripped right back with less options. If we dive deeper into the Go3S menu though, you can adjust picture profile, shoot in manual or auto, change the sharpness settings, select from different resolutions, use gesture mode, program various quick presets, change the aspect ratio, and there's even a digital zoom on the touch screen and lots more. It really is a camera packed with loads of features. So how does the image quality compare? The Go 3 has better contrast and holds on to more detail in the clouds in most of these tests. The Hero has punchier colours, and after this shot I set the Go 3S to vivid colour profile. When the contrast is more extreme, both cameras look a bit mushy, but in a lot of these shots the results are pretty close. With closer shots, the Hero definitely holds on to more details, whereas the Go 3S starts to look a bit soft. Overall, the colours look much more natural with the Hero. You may have noticed already that the Hero is much wider, and that's because all of these shots haven't been stabilised, as there's no in-camera stabilisation. So all your shots have to go through the app. For smooth terrain and movement, this is fine, but for anything more than that, the shot starts to look a bit messy. And another thing to point out here is that there's no indication when you're using the battery saving mode. So I accidentally left it on for these riding shots and shot them in 1080 instead of 4K. The Hero only has a bitrate of 50 megabits per second compared to 120 megabits per second of the Go 3S. This does seem incredibly low, but even the new DJI Action 5 Pro was released with a bitrate of 60 megabits per second. I have read that DJI are offering a higher bitrate option with their next firmware update, so maybe this is something that GoPro could do as well. But does bitrate matter as much nowadays when most videos are watched on your phone? Let me know what you think in the comments. With the Go 3S you can shoot in 16:9 by placing the camera horizontally, and you can switch it to 9:16 simply by switching it to portrait mode like this. You can also choose to shoot in free frame mode in this camera, and free frame mode then allows you in the app to choose from 9:16 or 16:9. If you're getting value from this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and give it a thumbs up. It really does help. So when you finish filming, both the GoPro app and the Insta360 app are really easy to use. The interfaces are obviously different. GoPro's is more simplistic but very slick and fast, and you just select your clips and then you can automatically create an edit with music and transitions. The Insta360 app's also very fast and slick, but has so many more themes to choose from, around 38, and you just select your theme and then drop your clips in and it edits your video with music and transitions. The Go 3S out of the Action Pod is waterproof to 10 meters. The Action Pod isn't waterproof. The Hero camera is waterproof to 5 meters. A great thing with the Hero that the Go 3S doesn't have, and that's a memory card slot. Open this door up here and you can use a micro SD card. The Go 3S has built-in memory, and you have to choose how much memory you want when you buy the camera. So you can select between 64GB and 128GB. Both cameras have a built-in battery, and in my test the Hero camera had a much longer battery life compared to the Go 3S when it was on its own, and it ran for 3 times as long. But in the Action Pod, the Go 3S battery lasted around 20 minutes longer. The Action Pod can be used to charge the Go 3S camera as well, so when this camera is dead you just place it in the Action Pod and it acts as like a power bank and recharges your camera. The Hero for me is so close to being the better camera. I much prefer the design and the simplistic menu. Yes, it is slightly bigger than the Go 3S, but the finger mounts and the LCD screen make it so much easier to use straight out of the box. And it's small enough that you can place it pretty much anywhere. That lack of stabilization though, not sure, but maybe they can change that with an update. The Go 3S, I absolutely love the camera when it's out of the Action Pod. It's just so cool having a camera this tiny, which is just slightly bigger than my thumb. It would be great though to have a longer battery life when you use it out of the Action Pod like this. I'm not really a big fan of the Action Pod and the elaborate menu. I think it overcomplicates where this camera came from and how simple it used to be. GoPro have the right price point with this camera at £199, which is the same price of the original Insta360 Go camera. The Go 3S camera is $349 with a 64GB memory, and this is almost double the price of the Hero. Despite some of the shortfalls of the Hero, I think it will win over some new customers just because of that low price point. Let me know which is your favorite in the comments, and to find out the different shooting styles between the X4 and the GoPro 13, you'll want to watch this video next, and I'll see you over there.